Hi, my name is Sofia Parra, and I did my zine on the Chicano movement, or El Movimiento in Spanish, the movement. First, let's start with the history of Mexican Americans. In 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo brought an end to the Mexican-American War, and large parts of Mexico became USA territory, as shown on the map I provided. The treaty brought not only an end to the war, but also made many promises to the Mexicans that decided to stay on the land lost to the USA. They were promised the right to citizenship, their property, language, and culture. America, unfortunately, did not keep their promise to giving these people land and the rights that they deserved, and instead they ended up impoverished and getting treated as second-class citizens. Where the term Chicano originated has a few different theories, but one of the first mentions was in a newspaper, La Crónica, in 1911, where it was used as a slur against less cultured Mexican Americans and recent immigrants. But by the 1960s, the term had started to be reclaimed by activists. The Chicano movement really started after 1963 when Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta founded the United Farm Workers Union. They protested for better wages, benefits, and for dignity in their labor. These protests showed many other Mexican Americans that if they stuck together, they were able to create real change. Now let's fast forward to 1968 in East LA, where there were roughly 130,000 Latino children that made up about 75% of the schools. These mostly Mexican American students were not getting treated the same as their white peers. They were often pushed towards vocational schools, which would lead them to become laborers, while their white peers were pushed to colleges. Their schools were run down, teachers were underqualified, and classrooms were becoming overcrowded. At some point, their dropout rates were close to 50%, and Sal Castro, a Mexican-American social studies teacher at Lincoln High School, began to organize students to go on strike and walk out of class, inspired by the Watts riots of 1965. The first East LA walkout of 1968 happened on March 1st at Wilson High School after the cancellation of a play. Then on March 5th, about 2,000 students from Garfield High School staged a walkout, and between 15,000 and 20,000 students from 7 different high schools eventually participated in walkouts for about a week in that march. On March 28th, an educational issues coordinating committee formed from a group of students, parents, teachers, and members of the community created a list of demands to the Los Angeles Board of Education. Their list included bilingual education, teaching of Mexican American culture and history, and hiring more Latino teachers and staff. Initially, the Los Angeles Board of Education said that there was no money to implement those proposed claims, and on March 31st, the police arrested 13 of the walkout organizers, including Sal Castro, on charges of disturbing the peace. The leaders would later be known as the East LA 13, and were eventually released on bail by June 2nd after a lot of other protests. The next major event for the Chicano movement was the 1969 Denver Youth Liberation Conference. The conference was organized by Rodolfo Corky Gonzalez, who was a poet and an activist, and was attended by about 1,500 Mexican American youths. At the conference, discussions focused on the importance of cultural identity and pride. It focused on education and the issues that were also addressed at the 1968 East LA walkouts regarding bilingual education, cultural relevant curriculum, and increased access to higher education for Chicanos. At the conference, they also looked into the spiritual side of becoming connected with their cultural identity, showing El Plan Espiritual de Azatlan. Sorry for the bad pronunciation, but it was basically a manifesto that emphasized cultural pride and spiritual renewal based on the Aztec ideas. So, what was the Chicano movement able to achieve? First, the United Farm Workers Union was successfully able to improve working conditions, bring fair wages, and labor rights for farm workers. The Chicano movement also fostered a sense of cultural pride and identity among Mexican Americans, and the movement successfully pushed for education reform, including the implementation of bilingual education programs and the inclusion of Mexican American history and culture in school curriculum. This last page of the zine is my works cited, and I hope you enjoyed learning about the Chicano movement. Thank you.